I thought you might like to see what I've been working on as far as crystal radios go. It's my 1950s styled crystal radio, and of course it's shaped like a space station, and like all 1950s space stations, it has to have a radar on there, which also doubles as our tuner. So this is capacitively tuned. The outer ring is our coil, and this is not ready for prime time, and one of the reasons is I'm struggling with the coil. I should be able to get, I don't know, 3 to 5 stations with this. Right now I'm only getting 2 clearly. So my guess is I've got an impedance mismatch or something like that in the coil. Coil's got 3 sections in it, and of course, yeah, they have to cooperate in order for the thing to work at its best. What else? It has a stand. There's the stand for it, and the bottom of the stand has a place where you can set the earphone and clip the ground and antenna connections to it when you're not using it. So here are the ground and antenna leads, and then of course the earphone right here, and they all come in through the bottom like that. Yeah, why don't we go over to the computer and I can show you the diagrams and what I've been going through, and if anybody is a radio engineer and can point out any mistakes, I'd greatly appreciate it. Okay, let's go do that. Let's set expectations for this radio. It's not a contesting rig, it's never going to be. It is really for the 1950s style look. These small portable radios, they were typically inductively tuned, and they got 1 station well, and you might get lucky and get a 2nd station. So this is where I'm going. However, I have done a capacitively tuned radio, and in theory it should do pretty well. Okay, but some of the compromises necessary in sizing this down and so forth. Smaller diameter wires, they have higher resistance, higher impedance. The wire routing and spacing, well, there's going to be crosstalk in there. That's a hazard. And component spacing, yeah, so everything's kind of packed in there together, and so there's a potential for bleed over and some other effects. The film capacitor is, yeah, they're just not as efficient. It's much less efficient than an air-type capacitor, and has less range. Instead of going from 4 or 13 up to 360, we've got 8 to 170 picofarads. So a good outcome for this radio would be, maybe 3 stations, and a great outcome would be 4 or 5, maybe, yeah, something like that. So why is it still a working prototype? Ouch, yeah. The coil Q seems to be low, and I'm still working that issue. Q is the efficiency of the coil, so it's how well it resonates at a frequency and how much loss there is. So the maximum Q is when the inductor length is equal to the diameter. So if we look over here, so this is the length this way, and this is the diameter like this. Our space station coil looks like this. So instead of being 1 to 1 or 3.5 to 1 like a typical crystal radio, this thing is in the range of, yeah, it's 1 to 10. So it's actually upside down in its ratio. What else do we want to talk about? Yeah, my hoop coil, which if you've seen that radio, I have a hoop coil radio. It is 9 millimeters by 320 or 1 to 35.6, and it works just fine. So somewhere my brain is misfiring, and I'm either got some math wrong or I'm thinking of something wrong. I'm missing something. So some other things that we could do to improve the Q of the coils. The wire size should be as large as possible. Ours is 31 AWG. That is small, but the radio configuration limits the size. Maybe I could do scatter winding, maybe I could do lits with scatter winding, something like that. But yeah, I'll show you. I've tried a couple of those experiments, but anyway. The turn spacing should be close, and that's really hard to do with fine wire. I have had some spacing issues trying to get the wire wound there just perfectly. It looks really good until you hold it up to light, and then the core is translucent enough that you can see all the gaps. So yeah, okay. Air has the best dielectric constant, so for a coil, that's, we're pretty good there. The PLA plastic will detract a little bit from that, but it's not a terrible thing. The film capacitor, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's just not as efficient as the air type, and I'm guessing I've built equivalent radios with an air type capacitor and a film type, and I would say there's maybe a 30% loss, so we really need the coil to be as efficient as possible. So here is the original design, and here is what I've been ratioing from to get the current space station configuration. And you can see the diagram here, and the changes I have had to make to get anything out of this radio are kind of bizarre. I had to change the location of the antenna and the ground. So yeah, and then I had to add some turns here. This may be a little bit more pictorial of what's going on. So again, this is the original, and this is how the capacitor is soldered in there. And you can see I originally had a jumper across these two, which would give me 8 to 240 picofarads. But I found this, the capacitor is just so inefficient that when you add more capacitance from this thing, it cut the signal rather badly. So what I did over here is I added more coil, more turns of the coil, more inductance, and I dropped the capacitance in order to get a little bit more performance, and yeah, that helped. So here is actually the physical thing I did. This is a picture of the insides of it. You can see the green and red arrow. I swapped those two leads, and then the blue arrow here, that blue wire, I took that out completely. And you can take time if you'd like and see the other components that are in there. Okay, so what do I need to learn? What do I need to fix? I'm strongly suspecting I've got an impedance matching issue. But what's confusing me is the hoop coil. Theoretically, that should be really terrible, and it's not. And so, yeah, that's got me kind of confused. But okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. Potential impedance matching issue. So impedance is resistance at a frequency. You probably already know that. It's not just like regular DC resistance where you can put your VOA meter on it. It includes resistance from capacitance, inductance, and ordinary resistance, and it changes with frequency. So you can't just measure it with the average VOA meter because you need an LCR meter that can test at different frequencies. The coil's impedance, so these two sections, they affect each other, and that is it's a little bit complex relationship. So this secondary impedance, which is this part over here, that's the tuner part, is equal to the primary impedance, which is this part, times n squared. So pretty simple formula. So you ask, what does the n mean? Well, this is where it gets messy. N is equal to the number of turns of the secondary, this, over the number of turns of the primary, which is this right here. So the impedance of one side and the impedance of the other side are also dependent on the number of turns of one side versus the number of turns on the other side. And as you notice, this turns part of the equation, that is squared. So these things can go out of whack really quickly because of that squared term. And I think this may be what's biting me, I'm not quite sure. So if you want to look at the math terms, yeah, this ZS is equal to ZP times n squared. So that's the same thing, same formula up here, but written mathematically. What else? Okay, the antenna is about 450 ohms. That's pretty typical for a long wire antenna. And that's not usually an issue with crystal radios. Could it be? Yeah, maybe that's what's biting me, is there's a mismatch between that and something else. Okay, is there anything else? Yeah, I have tried many types of coil configurations. You can see a few of them right here. All of these have been rewound more than once. And yeah, so I have had, I don't know, more than half a dozen different coils in there. That's, yeah, not giving me any better luck. So I've increased the tuning coil turns. I've increased the antenna coil turns in relation to each other, the ratio between the two. Litz wire, I've used the same configuration. I've used more coil turns, more antenna turns, and I've actually put in an isolated antenna coil. And I also did that with one of these, I think this one right here. Yeah, and they all gave worse performance. So, again, I am befuddled. Okay, so let's go over to the antenna area and we'll hook it up and we'll see what it does for us. So this is the typical setup. I have the ground and antenna connections back here. This is hooked to my T antenna and my ground that go outside. And we've got the oscilloscope. Today I've got it hooked up to the earphone, so we're actually looking at the output from the earphone. And we will tune through the stations and see what we can hear. And got just static right now. There we go, that's one station coming up on one station. And that one is, yeah, one can hear that one, that's not too bad. And then we should get the other station that's near my house, which is just always, yeah, there it is, outrageously powerful. It's only about 1 kilometer away, so yeah, kind of blows everything else away. And there we reach the end of the tuning. So yeah, only 2 stations, should be getting more like 3, 4, 5. Anyway, if there's somebody out there who knows better how to wind a coil, I'd love to hear from you. But otherwise, that's kind of it for today. Well, hope you found that useful and interesting in your 1950s radio recreation efforts.